Hi, everyone, and welcome to this episode of the Confidence Conversations podcast. My guest today is somebody that I've known for, we think about 18 years, but we've never actually spoken, which is very random. So I'm delighted today to welcome Carolyn Sweeney from Creations. And we've just commented on, right, when am I due another trip? So welcome, it's lovely to have you.
Thank you, it's a pleasure to be here.
We are going to have a conversation about self-doubt, which in terms of confidence, to me, the two are kind of completely linked, right? One impacts the other. You can't probably have one without the other. We all experience some kind of self-doubt. I think there was some research that said something like 85% of people say that they experience self-doubt at some point, whether that's situational or throughout their life or different. So we're going to have a chat about that. But before we do that, tell us a little bit about you and what you do, because I know obviously you're the owner of the fabulous hairdressers in Chichester called Creations. I have to say that because I go, so I don't want to come out, I like to make sure, my hair is looking okay today. But you do lots of other stuff as well around well-being, things like that. So tell us a little bit about what you do.
Okay, yeah. So hairdressing has been my thing. I started when I was 14 years old. And when you talk about not having self-confidence, I kind of became a hairdresser because I didn't know what else to do. And I kind of fell into it and then discovered that one of my passions was just being around people. I just love people. So, did my apprenticeship, became a hairdresser, went in many directions of competition work and fashion work, and then found myself working for people that just didn't look after people. And I found that quite frustrating in our industry. So I just wanted to create a place where people wanted to be. And that was really important to me. So whether that's the team that work with us or our customers, that's what it's about. It's about, wanting to be somewhere. So that's why I opened the salon originally. And I had absolutely no idea. I just had this vision of just creating a nice space to work. I had no idea it was ever going to be as big as it became and in which direction it's taken me. So, we also have a barber shop. We have a training academy and we've had the business for 26 years. And what's happened is it has been successful, and we've got a fabulous team that have been there, for many, many years. Yeah. In fact, the manager, Joe, started with our creative club, which is our 14-year-old club, worked her way up and now runs the business today. And that's given me opportunity to go on and do my other passion, which is teaching. And so I have another company called King Connect, and King Connect is a club for salon owners. So I teach business development, so everything from marketing, team development, mostly financial, and all the pillars that you need to run a business. So I work with salon owners. So it's just taken me on this unbelievably journey, which I very much love.
Amazing. What a journey, and how. I mean, we were just saying we don't know where the time goes. I've been coming to Creations for 18 years and the team are fantastic. And there's still people in there that were there when I started going, and I've been with the same hairdresser. I think sometimes she hates me because I'm like, yeah, just do the same thing. I think I must be like your most boring client. But she said, no, actually, sometimes it's quite nice because, and I love the ethos of the academy that you run where the guys are all, a lot of them do apprenticeships and they're all really great and they create really great conversations and they're always really happy to tell you, what they're working on and what they've been doing. And of course, me being a coach, I'll probably ask them some questions that a lot of other people don't ask them as well. How are you enjoying it? How's it going? How long have you got left? Tell me more, that kind of thing. So, and then your King Connect, I love the sound of this because interestingly, I was on a training program with somebody who was trying to do something similar to what you were doing in another part of the country. And I remember thinking, at the time I didn't know much about King Connect, I remember thinking, oh, that sounds really great because you're bringing everybody together, aren't you? They're all in the same boat. And like you said, you had no idea in the beginning kind of where that was going to take you.
No, and I think, when we think about the journey that I've been on and when you talked about the apprenticeship, so we have this club and that's where it all starts from. We have this club for 14 to 16-year-olds, which is where people discover if they want to be a hairdresser. And I guess King Connect was, so, we have Creative Club. And then you think of someone like Jo's journey that works with me. She started Creative Club, did her apprenticeship, became a stylist, became a manager, and now runs the business. And it was then the next step for me, because I've got all the steps all the way through in creations. But it was like, how do people then open their own business? Where do they go next? And so King Connect was about that. And when you're a small business, it's much easier today, but when you're a small business, you do feel quite isolated. You do feel on your own. And so having a club, and we call King Connect like the family, and that's the name of it, kindred spirit, connecting people together.
Right.
And there are all these salon owners out there that, are brilliant hairdressers, absolutely fantastic hairdressers, but perhaps haven't had profit and loss or cash flow training or marketing training. And so that's really, it was like the next step on. And I teach what I've learned, and that's what the program's about. And when I have challenges in my own business, then I know that other people are going to have those challenges too. And I love solutions. I'm a real solutions person. So give me a problem, and I will just find as many ways, however crazy there will be. But that's how my brain just works. My brain just goes, okay, what's the problem? Where's the solution? And so that's what I love doing, just solving problems.
And you're absolutely right about running a business. That's probably one of the things that so my business is 5 years old, and you're right, it can be quite lonely. And also the bit that you've trained to do, so the hairdressing or the coaching, that's the easy part of running a business. That's the simple part. Is everything else, like you said, like profit and loss. So I did profit and loss in my corporate days, but that was managing a big budget where you actually didn't really see the money coming in and going out. It was just numbers on a page. There's lots of things that you don't think about when people go, oh, I'm going to open this salon, and I don't have physical premises like you do. That brings a whole nother load of complications into it. But you're right, it is really isolating. And I think that is when the self-doubt starts to creep in, right? Because you're going, well, can I really do this? Oh, look, and the comparison of, oh, look at that salon over there, they're doing much better than me. All of that is all linked in with that.
It's so linked in, and I have my own obviously issues with confidence, but one of the things that I often speak to salon owners about is especially when they're a new member. They'll say, so how well am I doing? And what am I doing in comparison to everybody else? And am I doing about right? And of course, my answer is different for everybody, because of course, firstly, what's success to you? So there's firstly what you want. How do you know if you're doing better if you don't know what you want? And that often some of the smaller businesses, I see some big salon groups that have got huge turnover, but their profit margin or their amount of profit could be the same as somebody that's got a 2, 3, 4, 5 stylist salon. And so it's not, big isn't always better. And so we should never really compare ourselves. I think we should always get information, and knowledge, of course, is power. So the more people you speak to, the more that you learn. But what I think about, how successful we are is how successful do you want to be, and what does that look like? And that's quite interesting, because often we compare ourselves with other people without even knowing what, their overheads might be, or what was their journey to get there. So that is always very interesting, listening to people sort of wanting to know where they are on the scale of success.
Yeah, it's fascinating. Comparison's a fascinating thing. There's another podcast episode actually with a lady called Claire Henley, and we talked about comparison, because we found ourselves in a situation where we were in comparisonitis with each other, but it was delivered by somebody else. It was really strange. And so I was like, well, you have to come on the podcast and talk about it. But I think one of the things for me that I've learned about comparisonitis is stay in your own lane. Compare yourself to what, like you say, what does success mean to you? Because that will be different to me than it is to you, and do your own thing. But I find that when I'm quiet in my business, which is August is quiet, December is, because there's other stuff going on, that's when that comparisonitis, because you're seeing people doing things that I appreciate. Social media is the show reel of life and all of that. But it's hard sometimes when you're quiet to not go down that path. And you have to just remember, stay in your own lane, keep doing what you're doing. You've done really well up to now. Keep going. So, it's
Yeah, we have one
fascinating.
thing that's for our members. It's called Club Connect, and we just get together a bit like this. Just we have a chat, and it's about every 6 weeks, and we just all get together. And there's never an agenda. We just talk and we just learn from each other. Take ideas from each other, and it's really important because I'll often ask people what successes they want to share, what's happened, what's been really great to share successes. But it's really also important for me to share their challenges and what's not going so well, because otherwise there might be a salon owner there that's sitting having a tough time right now, and all they hear is everyone going, "Oh my God, I've employed all these new great stylists and everything's fantastic and we're really busy, and oh my God, I've had my best month." And of course we need to share both. We need to share their successes because they're inspirational. But we need somebody to say in the corner, "Oh my God, I've just lost 2 stylists and I don't know how I'm going to pay my rent. And has this ever happened to anybody else?" And of course, 4 or 5 people go, "Oh yeah, that's happened to me." And "Oh yeah, that's happened to me. And this is how I dealt with it. And this is what happens." And so I think it's so important to share both sides because, we have that roller coaster of life in business or in our personal life, don't we?
Yeah,
Let's face it, it's
definitely.
not always good.
It's not always rosy, and you never know what's going on behind the scenes either, do you? For somebody, you
No.
just have no idea how they're coping with it. So let's get into a bit more about self-doubt. But first of all, I'd really love to know, what does confidence mean to you?
So what does confidence mean to me? Well, interestingly, confidence means it's really introvert because I'm the most introvert person I think I know. So of course, everybody thinks I'm extremely confident. So I'm a business owner, I'm a business coach. So that obviously says she's confident, she knows what she's doing. I'm probably the most introvert person. So at a dinner party, I mean, I find networking really quite difficult. If I'm in a room with people I don't know, I get a bit nervous. And so it's really interesting that, of course, everyone just assumes I'm really confident. I was always the quiet kid at school. I didn't have many friends. And even today, in a crowd, I'm probably the person that you'll find standing at the back. And so that it's quite interesting. So what does confidence mean to me? I guess it's all about what makes me confident is just being honest, being factual, being knowledgeable, learning. That gives me the confidence. And also I think confidence is also about, it's okay to say I'm not feeling great, or it's okay to say I've got no idea what you're talking about. I don't, and that could be really hard. And I've had to learn that actually. I've had to really learn it's okay to go, and become more curious. Actually, I think you say you're very curious, and I think curious people sort of drag knowledge. And I think when you're feeling unconfident, you tend to not ask so many questions, and then you tend not to learn. So to me, confidence is knowledge. If you've got the knowledge, you've then got the confidence.
Yeah, and it's interesting listening to you talk about that, because you almost described, when I'm in a situation where I've got knowledge. So I imagine you're really confident in the salon, which is probably where people see you, or when you in your King Connect with their members, that's probably because it's about you, right? And it's the knowledge, it's what you know, but take you out of that and put you in a different situation. It was really funny. We went to a wedding a few months ago, and I think I knew 2 other people there, and my husband, who says, "I don't know how you go out networking, you're my hero, I could not do that." He was much better at working the room at the wedding than I was, because suddenly I didn't have anything in common with these people. Whereas when I'm at networking, I do, because we're all there for a shared common purpose, I guess. And he was really surprised that I felt really uncomfortable. And I think there's this thing where you can be a confident introvert and an unconfident extrovert as well. Or ambivert.
I think it's so true. Yeah, I think it's just so true. Just as soon as you take me out of my comfort zone, take me away from put me in a room with hairdressers, I'm fine.
Yeah.
Put me in a room with anyone else, I'm completely different.
I bet
so I think that's
Yeah, knowledge is so linked to confidence. And then once, but also your point about having the confidence to say no, or I don't know. I mean, you probably know I'm all for pulling up my big pants, going off and doing things, and stepping out of my comfort zone. But there comes a point sometimes where I know I've gone too far, and for me, there's courage in saying yes and no. Having the courage to say no.
Yeah, I think learning to say no is a really powerful thing. and not and being able to, if I committed to something, I'm in, right? So if I've said I'm doing it, I've got to have a damn good excuse or a damn good reason why I'm not. So once I'm in, I'm in. But I've also really learned that to give yourself time to say, can I think about that? And that was a really big thing for me to learn, because, I'd always feel the pressure. Again, I think there's that lack of confidence. Like, do I say yes or no now? What, have I got to answer it? And it's like, and then you feel yourself going, oh my God, I don't really want to say yes, but that person's standing in front of me. And so, just to kind of go, I remember my early days when I first had the business, I pretended to have a business partner. And I did that purely because it gave me the option to go, I'm really sorry, I'm not the decision maker. I need to go and discuss it with my business partner.
Great idea.
And it just gave me this ability, whereas now I'm much more confident. I'll just turn and go, that's not for me, thanks very much. But whether it was somebody selling to me or somebody trying to get me to take product on, or whether I wanted to employ somebody or not employ somebody, that I used to find really hard. You have somebody in front of me and I think they were such a lovely person, but the wrong fit. And so I'd think, oh man, you're really lovely, I should give you a job, and it's just like, oh God, no, I shouldn't, because you're not the right fit. And so just, I think sometimes learning to be able to just go, I really need some time on this. And that came to me a bit later. And I say that to people all the time. If you're not sure, you're in a meeting, you're in a situation, there is nothing wrong with going, do you know what? I just need a bit of time to think about that.
Yeah, and I actually really like the, I'm not the decision maker, because that sounds really confident as well, doesn't it? I'm not the decision maker, and it buys you time. And I think there'll be people listening to this that will do what I did and go, that's a great idea. And only just this morning, I'm doing some teamwork, some team facilitation at the moment with a group. And we talked about how they're always really quick to respond. This is due to their behavioural profiling as well. But we were having this conversation about the quote that is from Viktor Frankl, who I think was a prisoner of war. And he said, in the space between the stimulus and the response is where we grow. And I think as you maybe get a bit older and a bit wiser and you get more knowledge, you're able to extend that space, aren't you, where you can just buy a bit of time from the stimulus to the response that you're then going to give. But I really like that. Oh, I'm not the decision maker. Oh, I wish I'd had this conversation with you 5 years ago.
And of course, there's nothing wrong with that, is there? There's nothing wrong with that. I've got to discuss it with somebody else. And it's so funny because, especially with salespeople, because they instantly think they're in front of the decision maker.
Yeah.
When you say I'm not, they'll go, well, who is the decision maker then? So they think, God, I've got in front of the wrong person.
Yeah, I love that. That's brilliant. Then you're bringing about a whole load of self-doubt for them as well. How did I make that mistake? How did I not get in front of the decision maker? I'm normally really good at this. You can hear it all, can't you?
But of course, the fact is that failure is so important to success, isn't it? Right? So you only learn these things.
Yeah.
You only learn these things by spending money. So you only learn these things by signing a contract for 5 years for something you didn't want.
Yeah.
Because and that's how you learn these things. You don't wake up with the knowledge. You make the mistakes first, then you go, oh, how am I going to get myself out of this situation?
Yeah.
Of always saying yes to people because I don't know how to say no.
So true.
So making up somebody else in the background, having a special person that you have to go and discuss everything with. And actually, I think sometimes I did go and discuss it with my special partner that was in my head, my voice too.
Yeah.
So what's wrong with that?
There isn't anything wrong with it at all. And I mean, I have an inner critic and she's called Betty. I'm probably not sure I would discuss it with her, but I do discuss a lot of things with my husband, who we call my unofficial CFO. He says he's chief fun officer. I'm like, oh, I'm not so sure about that, because the minute I say, I really want to do this, he's like, and how much is that going to cost? So I'm like, no, you're definitely the CFO, not chief fun officer, definitely. Just to be clear. Yeah. So how does self-doubt show up for you then? I mean, that's a massive leading question, that's right?
So self-doubt for me, I mean, it's quite deep, my self-doubt.
Okay.
So I'm severely dyslexic, severely. Okay. So, so there's some real deep-rooted stuff that goes back from being a kid and being at school and all of those things. And to be fair, as you get older or wiser, it doesn't need to be older, just wiser, just learning stuff. You learn to deal with these things, but they still creep up on you, when you think you're in control and then all of a sudden you're in a situation where you have to write something down, or you have to, and you can't, because you can't, or somebody asks you to read something and you can't, so that then becomes a challenge. So because I'm dyslexic, I've found many avenues that have helped me over the years, and of course so much easier now with predicted things, and be able to speak to my computer, and so life is also, technology has made life much easier. But it makes you believe that you're perhaps not good enough, or you're not as good as other people because you have no education. I remember having a row with somebody once. I'm not a row, I'm a discuss, but I remember getting into quite a heated discussion at one point, and somebody saying to me, the problem is with you, you're stupid and uneducated. And I remember answering, going, uneducated you can have that one, but stupid I'm absolutely not.
Wow.
And so but you do, because you have, if you want to call it a learning difficulty or whatever you want to call it, or for me, I absolutely call it my superpower, because of course what it's done is it's made me learn in other ways, and it's made me do things in different ways. So, but again, growing up, it wasn't a superpower. It was a massive hindrance to me. And so I think when you talk about imposter syndrome, and you talk about how I have been successful. But I think what it sometimes comes inside of me is like, could I have been more successful, and could I have done something more with it, and could I have done this if I'd been able to do other things, and so all of those things. And of course it does still challenge me in confidence sometimes.
I've been doing quite a bit of research and a bit of work just lately on neurodivergence, which covers such a wide spectrum, doesn't it, of different things. And there is another podcast actually with Tamsin Hall, who is a neurodivergence coach, and I think I first probably came across dyslexia as a trainer. So back in my corporate life, I was a facilitator, a trainer, and I remember working with somebody who, I think she'd just turned 29, so I'm going back a few years now, and she said, I've just been diagnosed as dyslexic, which was really unusual, wasn't it? I mean, now I'm not sure it's easier to get a diagnosis, but we're hearing about it more and more, which is great. And I said to her, okay, so how have you even got to 29 and not known? What's happened? And she said exactly what you've said. I've found ways to cope with it and to manage it. And I went off and did a little bit of research, and with her, we came up with a little pack to send out to store managers to say that maybe you might have somebody in your team that's struggling. Maybe this dyslexia was the thing then. But of course, the same thing kind of happens with ADHD as well, where it's almost masked, isn't it? And you learn to deal with it. Therefore, it then isn't, that's normal. If there is anything as normal, that is normal for you.
And I think people now start going, oh, everybody's got ADHD, everyone's got a problem, everyone's got dyslexia, everyone's got this. Well, of course, it's not that everyone's got it, it's the fact that we now recognise it. That's what it's about. And it's,
totally.
I've never been given a certificate that says I'm dyslexic, but you know what, I can't read and write, so I take that as being the problem. And I think that we just know we're learning more and more and more. And of course, I think that's fantastic, because if you know the knowledge, again, it's about knowledge. If you know that, you can get the help and support to do it. I mean, I went through school, and I actually convinced myself as a young person that adults could read and write, so it was okay. And I never reached out to anybody. I was that kid that, in the history class, I used to sit under the table, and the teacher let me, because I was quieter like that. Or if somebody asked me a question or to read something on a book, I'd throw myself off the chair because I didn't want to do it. So I'd get sent out the room, and that was much better for me. I would never criticize my parents. I love my parents dearly, but they didn't notice. And I don't think all those years ago you didn't do homework or reading with your kids, or you just let them get on with it, right? So it's different now, and I think that that's great, because we've got that knowledge, and that means that we can help people in a much better way.
And also, so right, this is, and it's individual to everybody. This is the thing that I think I've learned the most, is that any kind of neurodiversity, because it's hard. You could go down the road of listing everything, couldn't you? Is some people say it's my superpower, like you have, great, and some people say actually it's not. And everybody's different, aren't they, with how they deal with it and how they manage it. And then some people want to know. So somebody might want something that says, I am dyslexic, and you're saying, well, I just know, so I don't need anything to say that. But I can totally see how this affects confidence, particularly in terms of, can you stand up and read that, or can you, that's a challenge, and nobody really likes doing that
I went
either.
through. No, when I was training to be a coach, and when I first started teaching, everything was done on a flip chart. I mean, just like, oh God, I don't want to pick up a flip chart. And then, when I was working for other people, it was things like, you have to write on the flip chart. It's like, but I can't. So I would spend hours before, and halfway up the night, writing everything out and copying it from my notes and writing a flip charts out before I went in the room so that I could turn the piece of paper and it was already on there.
Yeah.
And it was like, how'd you get round? And so to me, a flip chart's like, oh my God, it's that I just don't even have one. I just can't stand a flip chart. It's just like, oh, don't give me one. And again, as a coach, I've just learned the power of PowerPoint and the power of my own memory. I've got a strong memory.
Yeah.
And the power of knowledge, because if you know it, it's in there and it just comes out, right?
Yeah.
So you don't need to read it.
No. I think the flip chart thing's really funny. I'm chuckling to myself because without fail, I would always trip up the damn flip chart. I'd always manage to position it just so that I tripped up it. But one of the things I used to do was, if there was something, so I'm the kind of person that I'm happy to talk in public and do it, but if it's a speech, I will have cue cards and I'll have notes. I'm cool with that, right? That's a confidence thing for me. It's not a comfort blanket. It's if I don't, I'll go off on a complete random tangent and won't get over the points that I want to do. But on flip charts, I used to write some things in pencil because actually the people in the room couldn't see that. And then you could just copy them. So again, you find ways round, don't you? But you said earlier as well, where you were talking about the flip chart and writing it the night before, you said right at the very beginning about you're a solutions person. So there you go. There's the solutions coming through to manage those situations. Yeah, brilliant. Do you think self-doubt ever goes away?
No.
I
think you get wiser and you find other solutions. But of course, I'm always challenging myself, so I'm always putting myself in new situations. So because I love change, I'm an ideas person, and I love to do. So I'm always putting myself in new situations. So every time you put yourself into a new place or doing something different, along comes the new challenges. So it's like I was introduced to somebody, a network opportunity just recently, and it's for quite a big product company, and it's like, they're looking for a business coach, and just straight away I just think, well, I probably wouldn't be good enough for that. And they were saying, we need you to write we'd want you to write some modules for it. And I've kind of written my own modules, but it's like, and we like them done in our brand, we like them done in this way, and we like them done that way, and we like them done. And just instantly, my first thought was, I can't do that. And then when they told me that there was somebody else that was pitching for the job that had loads of experience in writing modules, I just instantly said, I've got no experience in writing modules, but I tell you what, I know I do a damn good job because I've got the knowledge.
Yeah, great.
And yet to know whether I've got that opportunity. But sleepless nights were creeping in. It's like, oh my God, why am I putting myself through this? So I think it's when things new come along that self-doubt comes back.
Yeah, I can totally relate to that. So this work that I've been doing this week with this team on kind of behavioural profiling, I've been working with behavioural profiling for about 16, 18-ish years. So I know my stuff, right? I pretty much can, I can find my way around it quite well. And then I was asked to do these sessions virtually, where it isn't I like to be in front of people because I feed off the vibe in the room. And so to then do it virtually, I was like, oh, I started to go, oh, can I, it sort of made me question, do I even know my stuff? And actually what I figured is that it's not my preferred way of doing it. I don't feel like I'm getting much kind of feedback, but it then starts to question, can I actually do this? Because the worst thing about the virtual facilitation, which is where I think the self-doubt comes in, is you press leave and then you're sat here on your own. You're like, oh, wow, I have no idea how that went. Whereas at least if you're in a room...
How did that go, yeah?
What I'll go make a cup of tea then. But if you're in a room, you've got people kind of coming and going that almost combats that self-doubt, doesn't it? Because maybe they want to ask you another question or they just want to pick up on something you've said. Yeah, I don't know how I think we just learn to manage it, don't we?
Oh, absolutely. And I don't think there's probably anyone that doesn't have it, right? I can't imagine
no.
that there's people out there that are so confident that don't, you know, and okay, again, I think it comes back to that success thing, doesn't it? Because, you know, what we all want, what we want to achieve is so different. No one is the
Yeah.
same.
No.
And like you say, when you're comparing, you know, there's no one that's the same as you.
No. No.
But I also think it's really great to have mentors and look
Yes.
up to people and find people that are doing things, in your opinion, more successful than you, so that you can, you know, copy and look at how they're doing it. And I think that's really important, to have people that you can learn from.
Yeah, and I think in confidence, the research, that there's not loads of research out there about confidence, but some of it is about environment. And for me, that's the people you surround yourself with. So who are those really trusted people? And if people have listened to the podcast before, they've heard me talk about Brené Brown, and she says, get a 1 inch by 1 inch square piece of paper, and they're your square squad. Put the names of the people in there, and it's meant to be small, so that you've got to really edit it. So who are those people that you can really trust, and that are going to go, do you know what, Gail, that was really tough and that was really crap. I'm just going to dust you off and I'm going to push you back out there again. They're not going to be the tea and sympathy brigade.
Yeah,
And
and I
that's
think
really
that
important.
choosing people around you is huge, actually.
Yeah.
And I think that, you know, again, I think that comes with a level of maturity as well, of surrounding yourself with people that make you feel good as well.
Yeah.
And, you know, and I mean, I'm a nurturer myself, but, you know, I also want to be nurtured. So you know, that's really important. And we have a saying in our in King Connectors about loving people in, loving people out. And I don't think I've ever fired anybody from my business, but I have loved people out of my business because it perhaps hasn't been right for them or for me anymore. And I think that there's, and you know, it's that decision of when things aren't quite right. And I think that's the same with relationships and friendships. If things aren't quite right, you have to nurture it and go, how can I make this better? And if I can't make it better, how do I part with this? And so, you know, that's something I think is really important, is that if you've got people around you that bring you down, you have to deal with that, because it's having the confidence, again, like we talked about, having the confidence to say no. It's having that confidence to say, you don't bring me pleasure in my life.
This isn't
you know,
working.
This isn't a good relationship, whether it be a business relationship, a friendship, or a partnership. If it's not working, I'm not saying that you know, dump everything that's not right, but if it's not, every relationship needs working at. And so it's that confidence to go, I either need somebody to facilitate and get this better, or I need to be honest with where I'm at. So I think that helps you grow your confidence.
Yeah, and I really like the love people in, love people out. That, because that just feels completely different, doesn't it, to the and I'm imagining that probably leaves them feeling a bit more confident as well, because you know what it's like, if you've been made redundant or you've been sacked from a role, you start to question again your own ability, the self-doubt kicks in. I'm interested to know, you said about nurturing, and kind of one of my final questions, you talked about nurturing, and I'm interested to know, how do you nurture your younger maybe team members, or maybe it's not just your younger team members, your team members, when they you know, experience self-doubt and you see it in them? What do you do?
Well, I think, you know, again, everyone's an individual, so you have to treat everybody differently, and so that's really important. And if somebody is, you know, struggling with self-doubt in any areas, whether it be physically because they're struggling to do something, or they've just not got the confidence to do it, I would first just spend time with somebody and just find out the why they're struggling, because it doesn't always show as it is. So for instance, if I'm looking at somebody that's not growing with their clients, so you know, they appear to be a really good hairdresser, but their retention level's not good and people aren't coming back to them. So, you know, is that they're not cutting their hair properly, and have they not done the job right? Well, you know, we should have trained them well enough, so they should be doing the job right. And that normally comes to, it's not the physical haircut, it was the communication at the beginning. And so where's that problem? Is it do I need to teach you something, or do I need to help you with your communication? And so I think it's really understanding, and then about motivation. You know, when you've got people that work with you for a long time, I think it's keeping people interested. So it's I want to be kept interested. I want to be on a continual learning curve, and so I think people need knowledge. And so I think it's pairing people with the right people. I think it's making sure people have got they're learning, and whether it be through podcasts or TikTok or wherever that information is. And again, just sometimes just stop. And when I'm nervous, and I'm feeling stressed, just walking outside, just taking 5 minutes, just taking that breath, just breathing in and out 10 times, just those sort of things. So if I see somebody in my business struggling, I just make sure I do one of those things, make sure they've got the knowledge to do what they need to do, they've got somebody to listen to, or they've just got the skills to be able to calm themselves down in a difficult situation.
Yeah, great. I love all of that. Look, I mean, there'll be people listening here going, I want to come and work at Creations now. I want to come work for you.
Well, the guys that worked at Creations has been there many, many years, there is a reason.
Totally.
And it's not about me, of course. It's not about me. It's about a team, and as we all know, it's about everybody working together. It's not ever about one person.
Yeah, absolutely. So come on then, what are your top 3 tips for dealing with self-doubt?
My top 3 tips.
Putting you on the spot now.
Okay, top 3 tips. Find a great mentor. Find somebody that you can learn from. Find somebody that you can talk to. So find somebody that you just trust. They don't need to be in your business. They don't need to be, just somebody that that you can talk to and you can trust. So that would be my first thing. My second thing, I've talked about it a lot, knowledge.
Yeah.
So podcasts, I love podcasts. I love audiobooks. Of course, I listen. I'm not a reader. I'm a listener. Thank God for audiobooks. And find somebody doing it better. So find that person that you admire that does it better than you, whatever it be, and learn from them. Go steal their skills. I've always said to my salon owners, if there's a salon in your town that's busier, what are they doing that you're not? Go steal it from them. Go nick that thing, and give yourself time out. Stop, breathe. Just give yourself that time to think. There'll be my 3 things.
Great. Oh, I love that. Thank you. Carolyn, this has been amazing. I've really enjoyed chatting to you. Thank you for being so open and honest as well about your own, confidence struggles from your dyslexia through to kind of, when you're nervous and all of that, because it all comes together to build up a real picture, doesn't it? And do you want, while we're on, you guys are running a wellness event, aren't you? You're going to have to remind me of the date, because I keep getting confused with the date, because I know I'm coming to do a talk on imposter syndrome. Workshop.
I'm going to say it's the 20th of November, and I hope I'm going to say that right.
I think you're right.
I'm sure,
because
I think it's the.
Yes, I think we'll pop
know that.
We'll pop the links in the show notes when we come to release the podcast, so that will be before the date.
And it's going to be a fabulous event. We've been running the women wellness events for a while, and it's got bigger and bigger and bigger. So this is the biggest we're going to be doing. It's at Grayling Well, and we're doing it to support Sage House, the dementia support, which is very dear to my heart. And we've got, just like yourself, and we've got so many, we're talking breathing, we're talking movement, we're talking hair, we're talking vitamins, we're talking menopause, we're talking, food, we're talking exercise, we're talking about everything that helps us feel healthy and strong. And so it's an afternoon, it's a 2 till 7 event. And the tickets are only £15, and it's certainly not about the money. It's about connecting Chichester, and it's about connecting people together to come together just to talk and share and learn, because that's how we get better in life.
Yeah, amazing. I'm really, really looking forward to that, and I'm thinking about what I'm going to do in my little space as well, to make sure that people get the most from it as well. So,
I'll be talking hair and hair loss.
Oh, amazing!
That's what I'll be talking about.
Yeah, and that's the other thing as well. When you go to something like that as kind of a speaker or a facilitator or whatever, you're like, how do I get to see those other things? How do I get to see those other people as well? So, look, thank you so much for being a guest. It's been amazing to talk to you.
Pleasure.
And I'll see you in the salon very shortly, hopefully.
Yeah, I'm sure I will. Well, thank you very much for having me.
My pleasure. Thank you.